Obviously, I'm doing this for Windows, but it turns out that if you've got a Mac or you've got a Linux machine, you can use the Command key instead of the Control key. You can use the Option key instead of the Alt key, and a lot of these things still apply. So although it's Windows only, there's an awful lot of this stuff you will find common. Talking about common, I'm going to kick off with all the ones that you should already know. Control C and Control V, copies and pastes. Yes, we've all seen that. If I open a document and I'll start a new text document, open it as well. There we go. And I can select some text. And Control C copies it, and Control V pastes it, and that's fine. What we haven't mentioned though is that if you do Control Shift V, that will paste it as plain text. And so if your source document has got colouring or different fonts or underlining or super, any of that good stuff, then that'll get rid of it. Control Shift V gets rid of all the garbage so that all you get is the text, which is handy. But even better, now that we've got Windows 10, is there's this thing called Windows V. You'll notice down in your keyboard next to the Control key, there's a Windows key. And if you do Win V, you get the Windows Clipboard History, which gives you all, once you've obviously told it about it. Now, most people haven't told it about it. So if you do Win V, you'll get this. Can't show history because you haven't turned it on yet. So what you do is you turn it on. There we go. And it's now turned on. And the clipboard's got one item in it, which is that one from there. But if I go down here and Control C, copy that. If I now do Win V, I've got a couple of things that I can paste into position. And it will save all the things that I've put in the clipboard all afternoon. And when I stop the machine and restart it again, the clipboard is lost. But until then, it'll give me a list here of all the things that I've used this afternoon. And that's a secret that Windows aren't telling you about, and I'm certainly not going to tell you about. So I'll get rid of that now by pressing the Escape key. Control X does cut, which takes something like that, and if I Control X it, it just disappears it. It goes onto the clipboard, but it disappears from where it originally was. So that as well as copying and pasting, you can cut and paste to move a thing from one place to another. Other standard things, Control S will save whatever you're doing, and Control F will find in any document. If you do Control F, you can tell it you want to look for a word, and it will find it for you, and it will find it for you, and it will look down through until it can't find it anymore. Control Z cancels the current thing, so I just deleted that, so I just undeleted it by Control Z. And Control Y does the undo. So Z made that thing go back into position, and if I do Control Y, that'll make it disappear again. I'll Control Z it back into position. Alt and F4 will close the current window. I want to save changes. No, I don't want to save. Let's go into here and let's go into here. If I have a bunch of stuff like that, if I click on one, it selects it. If I click on one and hold the Shift key down and click on another, it will select contiguously. It will select all the options between there and there. That's the Shift key with my click. If, however, I hold the Control key down with my click, then I can pick random ones, graphics, merge MySQL. I can pick a bunch of ones and not other ones and select all the good stuff that I need. Yep. F5 will refresh whatever I'm doing. So if I delete something or I'm copying and pasting and all that happy stuff, then if I press F5 at any time, it will refresh the screen. Now in browsers, there's a thing called Ctrl F5, which is Super F5. If I go to, let's say, WSAG homepage. If I press F5, then that will refresh the page. I'll go and fetch the page again. However, back in the day, when browsers weren't so quick as they were now, the people that made the browsers were doing all sorts of tricks to make the browsers appear quicker than they were. One of the tricks that they used was, if this page has got lots of pictures in it, then when the page gets refreshed, rather than going back to the internet for the pictures again, I'll just reuse my local copy of the picture. It was a thing called cache. So if I do Ctrl F5 on a web page, not really much to see here, that forces it to refresh, but it also forces it to reload everything from the web. So if something has changed in the meantime, you get an up-to-date version. You don't get the version that happens to be in the cache on your machine. Sometimes that's really, really important. Now, going back to my Explorer, a thing that people don't know very much about, F1 is help, yes. Did you know that F2 is rename? So if I press F2 on that, I can immediately rename it. Without right mousing or anything like that, I can just get on with it. Ctrl-Alt-Delete, we all know about the three-fingered salute that switches Windows off. But actually, if you do that, now, in order to do Ctrl-Alt-Delete in VMware, I have to go up here and tell it to send a Ctrl-Alt-Delete. What that does nowadays will let me do all these other things, include bring up the task manager. Right? Now, the task manager is important, particularly if you've lost control of something and you want to shut it. However, you can also go down here, right mouse, task manager, and that'll give you the same task manager back. Task manager is important, and we'll talk about that further down through this. Right. While we're at it, if you do Control-Shift-Escape, guess who turns up yet again? 3 different ways to open the task manager. That's how important the task manager is. We can spend a whole one of these 10-minute talks on the task manager, and I probably will at some point in the future. Alt and Tab switches between tasks. It used to be that Alt and Tab just went from one window to the next. But nowadays, if you do Alt and Tab, you get this. And you can pick which one you want to go to. Yep, so let's go back to the browser and it brings it up. And then Win key plus Tab does the same thing, but better. A lot of things, you know the keystroke to do it, using the Win key instead makes it better. So Win key plus Tab gives me all the things that I've got open, plus all the things that I had open last week. So I can get back. What was it I was doing? Some about Sprogs. Yeah, the Sprog guide open. Where was it? It was on the 18th of April, and then it's there. Right, and that's what I've got open at the minute. And that's Alt Tab, and that's already built in. That's part of your thing. And if I tell it yes, it'll keep more than a month's what I've been doing in this computer. Now, you might, if you share a computer with somebody else, you might not want that stuff shared, but that's between you and your conscience. There's an old saying that those people that do not learn history are forced to repeat it. The Windows versions of that is those people that don't delete their history are forced to explain it. And I'll leave that one hanging in the air. Windows key again, plus L. Will lock the machine. And you've got to get back in through whatever means you have. So if you're walking away from your machine, Windows key plus L, and you can lock it while we're talking about security. When I'm in a document, Ctrl A selects all. If I'm going to delete or move or copy, Ctrl A is delete all. Shift plus the arrow keys will select text. Give me a document to work on. If I use my shift key plus my arrows, I can move through a document selecting as I go to select stuff. But the Win key plus the arrows will snap me. If I'm using that doc, I want to have these documents open at the same time. I need that one and I need that one that I'm working on. So I use the Win key plus the arrow, and that will snap the document to the windows at the side. So it'll make things snap to the top or the bottom or the left or the right, so that I get the most space in the documents and I can have more documents open at the same time. I get rid of some of these again. The Windows key again, plus D for desktop, gets rid of everything. So if I hold the Win key down and touch D, it just gets rid of all the windows that are open. So I can Win key again, D, and they all come back. And then if you look along here, I've got, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Win key plus 1 will open that. Win key plus 2 will open that. Win key plus 3 will open the Arduino. Let's try it. Win key 3 opens Arduino for me. So if I've got these things clicked across the bottom of the taskbar, then the Windows key plus whatever number will open those up for me. Right? And Arduino opens like a dog on this. And as soon as it opens, I'm going to minimize it out the road. Another one with the Windows key, and I think I'm nearly finished with the Windows key, is Windows key Shift and S is one that I use an awful lot, and that's screenshotting. You've maybe used the Control print screen to take a picture of the screen and put it on the clipboard, or you've maybe used the snipping tool to take a picture of a window to put it up on a presentation or put it into a document. If I do Windows Shift S, then I get my screenshotting, and I can say, I'd like a picture of that, please. Ding, that's now my clipboard. Well, it's been saved to the clipboard. My clipboard manager knows all about it. And if I do Shift V, I can save it. I can do what I like to do with it. Windows key again with E brings up Explorer. When E brings me up the file explorer so I can find where I'm going. People spend a lot of time looking for stuff. The quick way, if you're telling somebody remotely over the phone, where am I going? Say, right, press Windows key and E and up comes the Explorer. Windows and I gives you settings. Ding, up comes the settings key. And Windows and R will give you the run bar. So Windows and R will bring me this, and I can type whatever it is I need to do in there to start something. If you're ever typing and you need either emojis or scientific, like a squared sign or a square root or a half, or a picture of a turd, because that's what emojis are and all that good stuff, Windows key plus the semicolon. Windows key, semicolon, and up comes this. And I can have those things, the actual emojis, or more likely for the likes of me, degrees Celsius and halves and squares and copyright symbols and all that grooviness. When you're doing emojis on a text document, a semicolon and then a closing bracket is what's supposed to be somebody winking at you. So if you remember the win key plus the semicolon gives you your emojis, and you can add those in as and when you want them. If you have a this is what we in the business call a grandpa box, because it's the sort of thing your grandpa uses, whereas all the young people are running about with phones and tablets and laptops. If you don't have a grandpa box, then win key plus P will bring up the panel options. Do you want to put your thing on the duplicate on the projector, or put it on the spare screen, or do whatever you want with that? Win key plus O will lock the orientation. If you do that on a tablet, this is a VMware, so it won't do it, but you can make your tablet turn clockwise and be upside down and all that happy stuff. And Ctrl Alt and arrows. So if you do Ctrl Alt plus your up, down, left and right arrows, will change the orientation of the screen. If you ever open up a laptop and it's the wrong way around for you, it's upside down, Ctrl Alt and upside down, and we're there. I'm getting very nearly finished, so I'm going to go back to the browser, and there's a couple of things in here we should know about. I've already mentioned that if I use Ctrl Shift and T, it'll bring back a previously closed window. So let's go to that page there, and I'll delete the WSAG page because I'm finished with that. And I just realized I've made a mistake. I need that WSAG page back. So Ctrl Shift and T brings back the page that I just shut. It's a brilliant thing. You'll use that every day of your life. F11 will make my browser full screen. And F11 will make it back again. So I get rid of all the clutter. But sometimes there's clutter that I need. You don't know about it because it's a secret. But most of the browsers, if you just press the Alt key, a wee secret menu appears that's got save this page. You ever wanted to save a web page? All the pictures and all the documents and all the links, you can save it, or you can print it. You ever wondered how to print a web page, or import a web page for another browser, or make your browser go offline? Or there's all sorts of groovy stuff in here that you can do in this little secret menu that nobody tells you about. But if you press the Alt key, it pops up. And then you've got the letters, Alt V for view, for example, takes me to there. Alt T for tools, takes me to the tools part of it. Alt T. And that's enough. Don't know about you guys, but I'm knackered. Any questions?